In this video, we will learn how to add a new component to the Atri Framework's visual editor, sometimes referred as Atri editor. We assume that you have already followed the steps from contributing.md on how to take a fork, on how to install and build packages, and on how to run the server and editor locally in development mode. Let's go back to the editor. Let's drag and drop a button component. Notice when we drag and drop a button component, the button component has some CSS applied to it already. For example, it has some background color, which is which is some shade of blue. It has some text color, which is white in this case. So this implies that it's possible that whenever we create a component, we can give it some initial style properties. What more do we have for button? In this button, we see that it has some text written on it. For example, here, submit. Where does this text come from? So this panel that we see over here, this is called the styles panel, from which we can control all different kinds of CSS. Okay, for example, outline, border, typography, margin padding, and the text can be controlled from this customs panel. So we call this panel the style panel. We call this panel the custom panel, where all the custom properties of a component appears. Okay, and this third panel is called the actions panel. Okay, where you can assign handlers or assign actions for any event that occurs on this component. For example, in case of button, whenever someone will click, an on-click event handler will be invoked, and that handler will take these particular actions that we specify here. In this case, it will just send it will send some data to the backend. The steps to create a new component has been laid out in the discussions. So if you go to our GitHub page, in discussions, you'll see a pinned discussion over here, which says how to add a new component in the visual editor. If you click on this discussion, okay, it specifies around 7 steps as of now. In future, these we'll have very fewer steps. Okay, now we have already followed the guidelines that were provided in contributing.md. So we'll next go ahead and follow the second step, which says we need to create a folder with the component's name. So let's go to the code editor. In this folder, in our code base, there are many packages. Okay, and the package that we need to be concerned about when you're creating a new component is the React component manifests package. Over here, you'll go to source. Over here, you'll go to manifests, and we'll create a new folder, same as the name of the component. Okay, in our case, let's call this component new button. So we'll create a new folder called new button. Okay, and inside this folder, we'll create a new file called newbutton.tsx. Now let's go ahead and create our React component. So our React component will be called new button. In this framework, whenever you create a new component, you need to wrap up that component inside forward ref. So I'll just go ahead and wrap it in forward ref. The first argument will be the props. The second argument will be the ref. Okay, and that ref should be assigned to the topmost element in the JSX. So here I'll assign it to button. Okay, now to make this code better, I'll give some type hints. So since our topmost element is a button, I'll just say that the ref takes the generic type for ref takes HTML button. And let's think about what are the props that this button will take. Okay, so almost every component will take the styles prop. Okay, so whatever input the user wants to give will be provided inside this component via props. Okay, so let's say this will be of type react.css properties. Now custom, so this component will have custom props as well. For example, it will have text, right? What, for example, we saw that in button we can write submit, right? So that's there, and then we'll have a listener, sorry, a callback called on click, okay, which will be of type. It will be a function that returns nothing, basically void, and the event will be of type, let's say we'll just pass on the page x and page y location to the parent element via this callback. Okay, so let's go ahead and write this text over here, props.custom.text. So now the text will appear on top in the button. Okay, now let's go ahead and finish up the wiring. So we need to tell which kind of properties should appear in the editor when, especially for CSS. Okay, so for example, different properties appear for different kinds of elements. For button, you can see that there is this flex child size. For, let's go ahead and say, if you drag and drop a flex box, we see layout properties. Okay, but for button, we do not see layout properties. So these properties in the style panel are component dependent. Actually, all the properties are component dependent, be it style panel, be it action panel, be it custom panel. Okay, these are all component dependent, like specific to the component. Now let's come back to the code. Let's go ahead and explain, or try to, yeah, let's go ahead and explain what CSS properties are applicable to this button component. So the CSS let's we can take reference from, let's go ahead and take reference from input. So I'll just copy this. So here it says that the flex container option, basically here we see the layout options. These are not applicable, hence we are providing it false. All other CSS properties are applicable, hence we are providing true. So for example, background is applicable to button, outline options are applicable to button, size options are applicable to button, so they are true. Uh, I'll take the help of VS Code here to import the CSS tree options type. Now, we'll go ahead and provide the custom tree options. For this also, let's go ahead and copy paste from input, and then we'll modify it for new button. Okay, let's paste it over here. I'll just import it using my editor's help. Okay, if you don't get these IntelliSense in your editor, you can just copy paste these imports from, let's say, input component. Okay, from over here. Now we'll change the custom tree options over here to suit our needs for new button. So here we see new button has only one custom property, and that is text, right? So we'll say that the text custom property, and here you will get again IntelliSense. The custom properties can be of many types. Okay, so here we have let's say static asset, yeah, a static asset, text, and so on. Okay, so this is going to be of type text. I'll I'll put a reference where all these types of custom properties have been explained. Okay, it's in, actually I can show it now itself. Let's go ahead to the GitHub. Let's open discussion in a new tab. Okay, here in one of the discussions you'll see types of custom properties. You can go ahead and look at here I have tried to explain different types of custom properties. Okay, for example, if I drag and drop image component, so here I have an image component. Now this image component, only if we go to the custom props, here we can see we can provide an alternative text, or here we can provide an image. Okay, so if we try to provide an image, we'll click. So we are able to provide an image from custom props because this src custom prop is of type static asset. Okay, so you can refer to this discussion to understand different kinds of custom props. Now let's come back over here. In this case, we only need like one custom prop, and that is of type text. Okay. When a custom prop is of type text, in the editor it appears like this. The way alt is appearing. Alt is of type custom text. So for example, if I change it over here and say logo, okay. So the alt text becomes logo. Now let's come back to the code. Next, we'll go ahead and copy paste the manifest. So manifest is like the description of the component and how it should interact with the rest of the editor and how it should behave when in the finally generated app. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and copy paste like this entire thing, and then I'll modify it to suit my need. Okay, so here I'll just clear these things. I don't need these things. I'll clear these initial values for here as well. Okay, I'll import to import these CSS tree ID, custom tree ID. I'll just go over here and I'll copy paste the lines. Just delete this repeated lines. Okay. Now coming back here, I'll change the key to new button. You can give it any name, but I prefer to give it the same name as the component and the category. Let's I'll explain the category later, but let's just keep it as basics. Okay, the component. Okay, here we need to specify the React function. So the React function's name is new button, so we'll just say new button. Okay, we need to import this. Here again, I'll take help of the IntelliSense, otherwise you can copy paste from input. Cool. Now we need to provide some icon. As you see, like all the components have some icon over here and some icon when you are dragging, right? So here, if you're not provided any icon in the PR, any icon in the issue, you can just use common icon. To import common icon, what you have to do is you just copy paste like this from here, or you can take help of your editor's IntelliSense. Okay, so common icon, and this icon will be, oh, I'll just remove this, so I don't need this. Now I need to import these two variables as well, so I'll go to input and import these two variables as well. React schema ID. You don't need to worry about these things. You just like copy paste. You don't need to think about these things. Okay. Now all we are done with the wiring. Like now we need to think about. Now we need to adopt it for our use case. Okay. So we have styles. We have custom. We now need to describe few things about it. For example, what will be the initial value? I guess that is going to be the only concern. Like that is going to be the only thing that you would like to change for your component. Okay, the initial value. Now, for initial value, here you can okay. Let's cover initial value a bit later. Before that, let's complete the wiring of this. So what we'll do is we will go ahead and complete the wiring. To complete the wiring, I'll just come over here in manifest.config.js file. It's situated over here, like in React Component Manifest, src manifest.config.js file. I'll just copy paste the way it is for table or any you can just copy paste anything, and I'll just say new button. Okay, the path is source manifest new button.txx, and the exported variable name is new button. Okay, so one part now, the final part of wiring is we'll go to component list layer, and inside src in in utils there is this manifest.tss file. Okay, over here we'll import this like we have imported every other components manifest. I'll just copying this and I'll just say new button manifest. Here it will be new button, so it will be new button. and we'll add this new this variable that we just imported to this default imports list over here. Okay, now let's go ahead and check in the editor. So in editor, oh, now it loaded. Okay, so we see, yeah, we see, oh, okay, it's written as input. I think we did not provide the right text over here. Let's go ahead in the code. And here, oh, here we need to change the name to new button. We forgot to do that. New button, new button. Let's go back to the editor to reload twice. Yeah, okay, it reloaded. So new button, okay? Now, this button, first of all, let's deal with the initial value for text. If we drag and drop this button now, the entire screen will go blank, okay? For me, it did not go blank. For you, it might go blank, okay? So don't panic there. It most probably it's the case where you haven't handled the required parameter. For example, here props.custom.text is required, but we haven't provided any text, right? It's undefined. So just to be just to build the components correctly, we need to take care of situations when when a prop can go undefined. Okay, so in this case, to prevent that undefined thing, I'll just say the initial text value, the initial value for text field should be, let's say, okay. Okay, close this. Just give me a moment here. Okay, so the initial value for text field should be okay. Now, whenever I drag and drop, let the editor refresh. It's reloading. Yeah, it's reloaded, I guess. Yeah. Now, whenever I'll drop, I'll see the initial text as okay. If I go over here, okay, like the initial text is okay, I can change it. Okay. Anyways, and as you see that this button looks very different from this button, right? This button has no CSS properties, so all the CSS that we are seeing over here is the browser's default CSS property. Okay, so we can give some like we can try to make look better so that the end user might not like have to do a lot of work to make it look better. So what we'll do, we'll come over here, we'll say style, and then we'll do props dot one second. Okay. Yeah, we'll come over here, we'll say style, and then we'll try to style it the way we want the initial value to be. Okay, so let's say we want the padding to be uniform on all the side to be one rem, and let's say we want the background color to be red, okay, and the text color to be white. So we are going to make the best button element you have ever seen. Okay, so you'll not see any change. Okay, so here you see all the button component has like all the previous button component that we dragged and dropped. Their look has been changed. Okay, if you drag and drop a new button again, this is how they will look like. Okay, now if you're satisfied with whatever style we have given, we have to copy this style from here and put it over here in the initial value. There is a strong reason behind this, like behind doing this, that I have covered in the discussion over here, and I'll not go through that in this video. But here, how to style a drag and drop component. In this, I have explained why you should like finally do this. Like whatever style you want to give, you should give that style as initial value over here, okay, and not over here, like the way it's over here. Okay, no, you should not give in the JSX. You should give all the style that you want as initial value over here. Okay, until unless you want this styles to be forced. Okay, you don't want the end user who is using this editor to be able to change that style. In only these cases, when you want to force a particular style, you don't want your end user to be able to change this style, you should write style over here in the JSX. Okay. In all other cases, you need to copy this style when once you're satisfied to and set it as initial value. So since I have already set it as initial value because I'm satisfied with the way the button is looking, what I'll do, I'll just remove this style and I'll just say props dot styles. Okay. So now I'll save it. I'll go back to the editor. Okay. All the buttons are now back to the original style. I'll go over here. Now, whenever I'll drag and drop a new button, it will appear red in the beginning. I can go ahead and change its color. For example, if I go over here and try to change its color, I can make it blue, right? So, or I can just specify no color and let it be browser's default color. Okay. So if I come over here and I'll just delete this. So as you can see, the color of the button has become browser's default. The text is not readable because it's white. I'll come over here and I'll just delete it. And now it's browser's default, which is black. Okay. So this is how you can add a component. Next, we'll learn how to attach a callback. Okay. So in this button, as we can see here, there is this on click callback, right? So to add a callback, you first have to define what this callback will do. Okay. In most cases, you will be just fine. Okay. So there will be an on click callback, which will do, which will be of type do nothing. Okay. So there are three types of callbacks in our framework. Okay. I have explained what each of these type of callbacks will do in one of the discussions, again in our GitHub discussions page. So here you will see types of callbacks in a component. Okay. So here I've explained the different types of callbacks. One of them is do nothing. Okay. In most of the cases, you'll need do nothing only when you are creating a controlled component and you have some controlled props. Then only you will need like either controlled or either file input type of callback. Okay. So now we have attached the callback as well. So now this callback will work in the generated app. Inside editor, callbacks do not work. The callbacks work only in the generated app. Okay, cool. So I just need to call this callback whenever user clicks. So I'll just go over here and I'll do on click props dot on click. But here's the catch: I cannot do this because these whatever you put in the event, there is high chance that these will be sent to the backend, and we cannot send the native events to the backend because native event are circular in nature. Okay, they are circular objects. Circular objects cannot be transformed into JSON, and they cannot be transferred, and that's why they cannot be transferred over wire. So what we'll do is we'll create a use callback const on click CB. This will be of type use callback. Sorry, this will be created using the function use callback. Okay, and here I'll just say I'll just check whether on click prop has been defined. If it has been defined, I'll just simply call this callback. Okay, now we need to pass in uh, the event. Okay, so I'll replace this with this on click CB. On click CB will receive mouse event, right? So I'll just say the event over here will be of type react.mouse event. Okay, and here from this event, I will just, so as you can notice, we are going to send page X and page Y. I'll just grab those values from the event.pageX, and page Y will be event.pagey. Okay. We need to add the missing dependency, and the missing dependency is props. So that's it. Okay, now the wiring is complete. We can go in the editor when we click on a button. If we go to the actions panel, we'll see on click over here, right? Because we attached on click event handler to this new button. Yeah, that's it about how to create a new component for Atri framework. Thank you. Thank you for watching.